Hey, this is Blackenfist, and I'm just this video right here will be a response to original Krillinfan's last Airbender review. I believe his username now is Bread of Power or something, but we all know him as original Krillinfan. So yeah, this will be a response to your review, and for the most part, I did agree with you on how they adapted everything, but I don't agree with you on how good it was as a movie. And correct me if I'm wrong about this, but you really skipped out on trying to talk about the actors' performances in this movie. Because the only word you ever said about the acting in your review was that the acting was, well, it was average. No, it was not average. It was pretty horrible. It was some of the worst acting I've ever seen, and it really makes all of the scenes in this movie awkward because it looks like they're acting, and sometimes it's not. And it just makes it really horrible because, and also, sorry, also because their lines are not written pretty good. That's two biggest gripes about this movie. Their lines are not written really good, and their acting is horrible. That's not good because when you combine bad acting and bad dialogue, it looks extremely awkward on the screen. Many times the characters they seemed very flat. Now, flat as in, yes, they were pretty faithful adaptations to what they were in this animated series. Yes, that is true. They were faithful adaptations. But some of their personalities were toned down because they could not develop that for the movie, because it was, of course, 2 hours, and the animated series had 60 hours to develop all these characters. So for the most part, the characters seem very flat. Very flat. The characters only seem there to be a piece of the puzzle of the plot. They didn't seem to be, as I said, developed. They were only there to explain exposition. They were only there to explain what happens next in the future story, but that's it. They were only there as a plot piece. That's it. That's all the characters were. That's how they seemed. So yeah, basically a plot piece in the movie. Which pretty, that means you don't grow any attachments to these guys at all. I mean, because they are basically one-dimensional in this movie. On the other things, you can call these more of a fanboy nitpicking if you can, but I had some problems with Fire Lord Ozai. Now that's okay. I'm gonna warn you, this might be fanboy nitpicking. I don't know about you, but Fire Lord Ozai did not seem intimidating or menacing at all. I think part of the reason that this is true is because they showed his face, and as everyone knows who's seen the show, they didn't even show Ozai's face, the Fire Lord's face, for like the first 2 seasons, I believe, but they didn't show his face for a pretty long time, and they just showed his face right off the bat in this movie, and I think that's what kind of cut his intimidating and menacing factor out. So he just didn't seem the same. Another thing that I kind of didn't like, and of course you can name this as fanboy nitpicking, it seemed that the Fire Lord in this movie, even though, of course it's not a 180, a 180 from the show, but it seemed like he cared more about Zuko than he did in the show, because I don't know, but he was talking in the movie. The Fire Lord was talking to one of his generals about his son, and I don't think the Fire Lord from the show would have ever done that, because who cares about him unless he brings me that, the Avatar. I don't even want to mention him around me, or I'm not even going to talk about him. So he seemed like seemed to be more caring than his son, and that kind of also slashed down his intimidating and menacing factor. So yeah, another gripe I had with it, once again, I understand if you had no problem with this, but the bending seemed awkward. And especially, this bending seemed awkward. It did seem kind of cool, the fact, in some parts, but the biggest difference between this and the movie is that in the movie, there are way more movements to bend. I mean, you need to do 12 movements just to bend like a water up in the air. And this is fine if they're practicing, but when they're fighting, it seems extremely awkward when Aang is doing all these sorts of movements, and the soldiers are just holding back, not doing anything. It's like, why aren't you doing anything? So yeah, the bending doesn't seem very practical in this movie. I believe that in the animated series, you just do 1 or 2 strokes of your hand, and you can bend the air. In this movie, he has to do, who knows how combination of things just to get the air to move, which seems very impractical. So the bending was pretty awkward, but if you can get past that, that's fine. Another thing was that the directing was kind of awkward. Now this is nitpicking, okay? Yeah, this is nitpicking. When forgive me if I don't know the name, but when the earthbending boy that they ran into, that was running away from the the Fire Nation soldiers, when he was introduced, all you saw was this shot of him running into Sokka and then holding him. First of all, I was very like, who is this kid? Why is he running into Sokka? And for a couple seconds, I did not even know why this was happening. Of course, a couple seconds later, you see the Fire Nation soldiers coming in. Oh, okay, so now you know. Okay, well, he was running away from them, and now he's probably grasping Sokka because he's scared. Well, for a couple seconds, I didn't even know that was true. It was just a very awkward shot. And it left me pretty confused for a couple seconds. Another thing that now this one I can say it suffered because it was a movie adaptation. The story was not very well developed in some points because they had to rush, compress, and this is all understandable because it's a movie, but they rushed big time in some things, and it seemed extremely. It just didn't seem right. It's like the biggest example I can think of that was not developed pretty properly. In fact, I wish that this whole relationship in the movie was not even there. The relationship between Sokka and, excuse me if I don't know the name of the princess of the Northern Water Tribe. I don't know her name, but that relationship, I would have wished that relationship was not even there because they didn't have time to develop that at all. It seemed very awkward. They were just together for some reason. The only thing we got was a narration by Katara saying they just became friends, but I don't know. That just seemed like they were just trying to skip on the developing. Of course, because they had to probably shave time off the movie, and this is a movie. Well, as far as that, I guess the movie as a movie is pretty bad. As a movie, it is pretty bad due to bad acting, bad writing of dialogue, and bad development of just about a lot of things. Bad development of especially the characters, and the plot is pretty confusing if you don't know what happens in the series. As a fan who already is affiliated with the series, the movie's actually pretty good, and you can enjoy it if you can get past these things. So as a fan, if you want to see it, and if you want to see something new, if you can get past that, yeah, I understand. If you'll like this, you'll probably like this movie. If you're not, I don't think you should waste your time with this movie. If you're not don't already know what the backstory is on this. So yeah, that's pretty much it. This movie was not at all how you described it, I think, Original Krillin fan. So that's just pretty much my video response to you. So yeah, this is Blackenfist signing out.